So here's the thing about To Be Hero after episode 5. We start the new arc, which is following Esau this time. And if you realize, Esau's the one who pulled the trigger on Old Moon last week. Now, I was informed last episode by a few that not only were we going to be focusing on this character, because they already announced how many episodes, each character would get in the hero chart, but also it was informed to me that we are apparently airing this show in reverse order, which that means is that the previous arc we just finished is actually last in the timeline. So in actuality, as we make our way up and go all the way to X, who will be the last character we focus on, his story will actually be at the start of the timeline, meaning Moon getting shot is the end of the story, all things considered, which is kind of messed up. But it's interesting because, one, what is the purpose of this reverse order? But it almost feels like my gut impression of this story is that, okay, we know Esau is going to be ending up pulling the trigger, but why does Esau do that? And then it's probably going to be revealed that Esau was manipulated or because of this character, and then we'll focus on that character, and we'll keep going down all the way to X, which will probably reveal the grand punchline of whatever reason all this bullshit happens to begin with. But the idea of starting the first arc that we saw out with Moon seemingly dead and then she was fine, only to then end that arc with her actually dying in that same pose. No longer a dream seemingly, but her actually dead. But why? What was the purpose of that? It's going to take us a long time to get that answer, but the idea of now getting us connected with seemingly her killer, unless he was forced to do it, I don't know. But the unprecedented nature of this show and its story structure is so uncommon and almost unheard of. And I think it's going to make for this show to continue to stand on its own two legs, because despite having an arc that essentially starts out like Batman losing his parents, I mean, at the end of the day, they clearly are doing something very unique with Esau here. And while I've seen similar things like, I never reveal my identity because anyone can be the hero under the mask, at the end of the day, Esau is very clearly his own character rather than just a cheap imitation or knockoff of plenty of characters I've seen in other media. But to be honest, yeah, To Be Hero X with episode 5, this new arc, I was shaking my fist when I heard, like, wait a second, you telling me we're gonna have to focus on the character who popped our girl? And now I'm here saying, god damn, I can't wait to see more of the character who popped our girl. This show's amazing. I got those full live reactions over on my Patreon. You want to support my work, see my full and cut thought to this To Be Hero X greatness over there exclusively. So, am I the only one who was convinced our boy was gonna die and actually the Esau we followed was gonna be the kid grown up? Because that's kind of the vibe I was getting. Like, I was kind of 50-50, but I was leaning a little more towards him because Buddy has no powers, right? He has no social status. Like, he's literally the most definition of civilian. And he jumps on a bike, lands on a van, gets thrown. Like, I'm surprised his back didn't break to save a kid who gets kidnapped from the girl he likes, that's her little brother. And he's getting his ass beat. And I thought to myself, one of two things is happening here. There's going to be enough general people who will support him and say, go get him, Esau, and he'll power up and be able to survive. Or this kid's going to suffer a very similar fate that our boy did here, where instead of the parents dying before him and then getting saved, it will actually be, this child who will then get inspired to be his own version of Esau. Like, I thought that was honestly an equally possible outcome, but I was very excited, and I felt like the crowd cheering him on, hip hip hooray, when he was beating the living shit out of these people, because that was inspiring, I ain't gonna lie. This guy had no power, no one believed in him, and he's like, you're not touching this kid, and I was like, god damn it. Discount Static Shock over here with his little stun gun hands. I believe in you so damn much. And I've made this comparison, I think, around episode 1 or 2 maybe, but I've been constantly saying, like, a lot of this world reminds me of almost like The Boys meets My Hero Academia, with how it combines, like, the artificialness and, like, the staged theatrics of the whole thing. But I've also said that parts of it remind me of Black Mirror, and honestly, the whole social status thing is literally an episode of Black Mirror where, like, people's quality of life was based on how much they like you, and if you get downvoted too much, you live in poverty. It was a messed up concept, but you can't tell me with a straight face we ain't gonna get there someday. And I really like that this episode just kind of gave me more of that Black Mirror kind of vibe, because this world sucks. At face value, it kind of works. You think to yourself, okay, a guy was getting beat up to near death, but because people believed in him, he was able to save a child. Absolutely, that's really great. The issue is that you could easily see how that could be exploited by both villains, because I'm thinking of stuff like the end of My Hero Academia, the final stuff with Shiggy. You could easily see how characters like Shigaraki could disrupt the flow and make no one believe in heroes, and a world where heroes' powers are based on the belief of the civilians. The villain's gonna win. And then you tie it to the fact that people get just screwed in their life because of some artificial bullshit number. You had a girl who couldn't teleport away because the people wanted her to stay with a guy she didn't like. This world sucks. Great for entertainment. It's kind of sick to say, but granted, they're not real people, so I don't feel as bad, but it's kind of baffling where it's kind of like, dance, monkey, dance, and just, goddamn. I mean, the new character's a little frustrating, but it's purposely designed to be frustrating. He didn't really have self-confidence, so even just asking the girl was like, hey, I got these concert tickets, I know you like it. And then it came to like, hey, his friend's like, hey, let's go to the concert together. I appreciate that they didn't let the misunderstanding continue past this episode, because when he like turned around, because he was ready to reveal his identity, and then we got the Harry Osborn of the show who's like, hey girl, how you doing? And you know, he's like, all right, I'll keep my identity a secret. And he's like, I know who you are though, boss. I appreciate that he called him out, because I would have been very frustrated if he continued to try to keep it a secret when, like, at this point, this is your moment to shine. You are becoming a hero. Let's do this shit. And very clearly, Buddy here has connections on who gets picked for the whole theatrics and who might become the next Esau. Like, the whole thing, right? It's just one big stage performance, really. But still, I mean, Buddy was a real hero in this episode. And honestly, I wasn't expecting too much. I was like, hey, you know, I know the first episode of the first arc, Hero offed himself by doing the most awesome Riz thing known to man. But I'm not expecting anything too crazy, despite, you know, starting off with parents dying. But I'm like, hey, it happens, you know. It happens in 10 Heroes. And then by the end of it, I'm like, okay, yeah, this episode, honestly, I think I'm more interested now with the first episode of this arc than I was even with the first episode of the last arc. Just crazy stuff. This is a very good show, and I love the idea that despite seeing so many things, like seeing these like elements that I'm like, oh, this reminds me of this superhero story or this one, I also can very clearly say with confidence this stands on its own legs as its own unique superhero story that, you know, has influences and inspirations, but is clearly writing it in such a fascinating new direction. Let me know your thoughts down below. What did you think of this week's episode? How are you feeling about Esau as a character? And if you got any theories on maybe what makes this guy pew pew, let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Doro, Crystal Cat, Son of Raven, Jungle, Cray Cat Lady 88, My Jets Revis, Kieran Wingfield, Goron 201, Mary Lou Botcheret, and we also have Pavel Krostiv. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you'll have a good one.